Welcome to Sports Corner with Ralph Williams and Smokin' Jim Frazier. And now here's your host, Ralph Williams and Smokin' Jim Frazier.
And good evening and welcome to another edition of Sports Corner. Tonight we have two things going on tonight. Tonight is the last scheduled Sports Corner podcast. Smokin' Jim and I are going to continue to do this, but we're going to do it on a rotating basis here. It'll be on like 2-3 times a month, but we're going to do it on a rotating basis because next week we start Tuesday nights 5 to 6 p.m. Beaver County Radio. If you can't listen, you can watch us on Beaver County Radio's Facebook page and listen on their website, and if you have the app on your phone, you can also listen as well. Smokin' Jim, welcome to the program. It's great to have you tonight.
Hey, thanks, Ralph. I'm looking forward to this show, brother.
Oh, yeah. You know, we have a monster show for you tonight. We have Leo Haggerty, who's in the waiting room right now from Florida. He's going to talk about the Florida Panthers. He's also from Amped Up Sports, who picked us up here on Sports Corner. We're part of Amped Up Sports now. And as of yesterday, we are now part of Sideline Sports also. So we're getting picked up all across the country there, Smokin' Jim. How do you think of that?
Man, what an honor, man. And I tell you what, man, hard work pays off, and nobody's out working you, Ralph.
Oh, yeah, well, there was a guy who did, and he passed away yesterday. That's Stan Savran. Tonight's show is dedicated to Stan Savran. And those of you who don't know, Stan Savran was a fixture in sports here in Pittsburgh and all across the, they even had it on national news tonight. I heard it about Stan Savran. That's how far this has gone. I just watched an interview with Guy Junker while I was waiting to see what was going on with the Pirate game, and he spread his thoughts. I have a couple stories about Stan Savran that I want to share with you real quick. One of them was I used to, when I first was in sports, when I first got into sports talk, I had a show from 1992 to 2000 on PCTV, and I also had a radio show on WEDO in 1999. I would get on to the Bill Cowher press conferences, and I would sit there with him, Sam Nover, and John Staggerwalt. We all sat at the same table together down at Three River Stadium. And it was great to be there. He said things, nice things. He was a very nice guy to talk to. He never stuck his nose up in the air at me or anything else. And then my next thing with Stan was we were discussing one time when he had on his show, who would you pick to be the new coach of Pitt when they fired Dave Wannstedt? And I said, well, how about Rick Neuheisel? He just got back in the call. He was allowed to come back to college coaching. He was in the NFL for a little while, and he was kicked out of college because he was involved in a gambling racket when he was coaching at Washington. So, he got involved in some kind of situation. So what had happened was I decided that I was going to call in, and I says, how about Rick Neuheisel? And you know what Stan Savran said to me, Smokin' Jim? No, he's Rick Oldheisel. Do you have any memories of Stan Savran there, Smokin' Jim?
Yeah, we did a couple shows together on, them night shows on CBS. And Stan was always a guy who, other than Myron Cope, when Stan Savran walked in the room, we knew who was the elder.
Right.
No, he was the guy that had the most experience. Bill Hillgrove was like that, but Bill Hillgrove was more like a friend with everybody. You know what I mean? When you listen to Bill Hillgrove and you see him, you think you see a friend, maybe because most people already had a drink with him before. But Stan Savran, he was the, he was the guy. He was the elder. He was the guy that people looked up to. Everybody says, they love this show. I really didn't love his show. Mm-hmm. But when he was a guest on other shows, like the Mark Madden show and stuff like that, he really gave you some good information and insight. I just was never crazy about his AM show.
Right. All right, we're going to go to our sponsors later on in between time here. But right now, we're going to introduce to you our new studio sponsor, First Line Consulting Services. I'm going there Friday, Smokin' Jim, to get my new website built, and they're going to show me my new website, RW Media. So we're going to be there on Friday. At the First Line Consultant Services. You need to get on their website, get on their Facebook page. They have an offer for you that is just it's phenomenal. You'll pay a minimal amount of money, and they will do a website for you. They will manage it, and you pay a monthly fee, and it's a low monthly fee. Okay, and I mean it's a low monthly fee. All right, let's get on to our first guest, because we have 3 of them tonight. But our first guest is my friend Leo Haggerty from Amped Up Sports. And Leo, I want to personally thank you for bringing us aboard on Amped Up Sports. And Smokin' Jim, say hello to Leo.
Hey, Leo. Always good to hear you, brother.
Hey, guys, it's always good to be heard. That's for sure.
You got that right. Leo, thanks for being on the program. I'm currently have the game on right now between Florida and Vegas. The Pirate game has been delayed because of rain in Chicago. So, but I'm watching the game right now, and that's one reason I brought you on tonight. I want your thoughts on what's going on with the Florida Panthers. You think they can pull this out and maybe come back like they did in the other series?
Yeah, I mean, just let's go back to the first round. They eliminated Boston. Being down 3-1, and Boston set the record for most wins in the NHL during the regular season. So yeah, again, Bobrovsky is the key. He's got to have a good game. He's got to stand on his head, basically, and go from there. Florida's got enough firepower; they can score goals, and that's something that not too many teams can say. They got 3 really good lines.
And, yes, they do.
And usually in the playoffs, the first line and the second line cancel each other's out. It's what the third and fourth line does, and that's going to be huge.
Also, they have Coach Paul Maurice, who I think is a good coach, although they showed his playoff record before the game, and it didn't look really good. But still, it was below 500. But he's still a good coach. I mean, I've seen him coach in some other teams. What's your thoughts on Paul Maurice?
You know what? Sometimes you got to get a new guy in, get a new voice in the locker room. He's provided that for them. And again, you got to get buy-in. Let's go back to the St. Louis Blues 4 years ago. In January, they were the worst team in the NHL. In June, they win the Stanley Cup. So yeah, you got to buy in, and they brought in the coach. In fact, I can remember seeing a video of Tarasenko looking at. They're showing the video of their coach, and he was a fighter, and he goes, "Is that our freaking coach?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh man, we're gonna be okay," and they come out and win the Stanley Cup. Yeah, it's just it's right place, right time with a coach. I mean, John Cooper wouldn't have got a job anywhere else but with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and look what he's done. So, yeah, big time.
Oh, absolutely. Tampa Bay has always been a tough team. The Lightning, they've always and they've been to some Stanley Cups and playoffs and all that. So, I mean,
Hey, Ralph, can I tell you a great hockey story? Because I make money at bars with this story about the Pittsburgh Penguins. How many times did the Penguins win the Cup? Well, they won it 4 times. And them and the Lightning have been the recent last to go back to back. How many did they win at home?
Oh gosh, I think 2.
None.
None.
0.
That's right. They won because the first one they won was against Minnesota at Minnesota, and they blew them out like 10-0 or something. I forget the score, but I do remember that. Yeah, you're right. They have it.
In fact, they had to have a day the next day where they let the fans come in just to see the Stanley Cup. So I still think that when the Lightning were up 3-0 in Montreal, they didn't put a whole lot of effort in Game 4 because they wanted to win in Game 5 at home.
Well, I'll tell you an interesting story. We had a parade when they won the first a parade, and we had a celebration at the old Three River Stadium. And our mayor was Sophie Masloff, and she was like in her 70s, and everybody laughed at her and all that. But you know what? Sophie was a good mayor. But we had the celebration inside Three River Stadium, and there were so many fans there, Leo, that the stadium was actually shaking. That's how many fans that were there celebrating this Stanley Cup, because it was our first Stanley Cup. And it was just so phenomenal. And the parades we had were just so great. And the celebrations, unlike in Denver last night, they had some problems. Police had to arrest a bunch of people. Here, we've never really had much of those problems, as far as that
we
goes.
haven't either. Yeah,
right.
Fact,
yeah,
we won the one early with Hobby Boolin in goal, and then we go back to back. In fact, I remember I asked John Cooper, I said, the last team to do this has been the Penguins.
Mm-hmm.
What does that do for you in terms of a legacy? He goes, winning one is great. Winning back to back makes you special. And I'll tell you what,
yes, it does.
The fact they got there the third time, with all the massive amount of hockey they played in that 3-year span. In fact, if they'd have got a decent call on the too many men on the ice against Colorado, it's 2-2 going back there. So,
right.
I think the Lightning ran out of gas. And last year, look for the Lightning and the Bruins to really push, because when the Lightning got eliminated by Columbus 4 straight in the first round, they win two back-to-back Stanley Cups. Look for the Bruins to kind of come out and say, "Hey, this was a mistake. We're gonna push hard this year."
Leo, another reason I have you on tonight is tell us about the what's going on with the Rays right now. I mean, I know they're starting to do like the Pirates, they're taking a little bit of a skid. The Pirates took a big skid in May. What's the Rays up to now?
You know what? They just had their 21st loss or 20th loss.
Mm-hmm.
They are 27 games over 500, and again, they start out 13-0.
Right.
But the one thing I brought up is this team is hitting home runs by the bushel, and I said, Is it the ball that's juiced, or is it the players that's juiced? And again, they are hitting home runs. It's lights out here, and they didn't do that in the past. Remember, this is a team last year that went 16 innings in Cleveland, nothing. I don't think you're going to see that again. And you got McClanahan, you got Elfin, and you got now Glasnow's back. And I'll tell you what, that's a heck of a 3-man rotation there when you get to the playoffs. I don't think, Ralph, this team's going to go away. It's going to be there.
I don't either. And you know what's interesting? They're a small market team, and they have done better than the Pirates, and it's pretty sad that that's the situation. But anyway, how's Tyler Glasnow doing down there?
Real good. He's had
doing
2
all right?
Yeah, he's back. He's had 2 real good starts. Hey, is Keyman Choi playing for you guys a lot at all, or is he hurt?
He's hurt. He's down. He got some kind of injury to his arm or something, and then he had the injury, and when he started the season, and it got worse, so he hasn't played at all hardly.
Oh, that's a shame. You'll really like him. He plays.
Oh, him and Carlos Santana playing first base back to back. Oh my gosh. Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, we could use his bat because we're still number 1 in the league, Leo, at leaving men on base. It just keeps happening. It happens all the time. We have 2 players. One makes is making $80 million over 8 years, and we just re-signed Brian Reynolds, and they either strike out or they leave men on base all the time. And then the only time that Reynolds hits a home run or does any significant hit is when there's nobody on base. So that's $180 million down the toilet.
Yeah, that's the old Earl Weaver story. Hit 3-run homers and get great pitching.
Leo, I want to talk a little bit about this or about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What are they looking like this season? Do you think Baker Mayfield's going to start, or are they going to go with Trask?
Oh, I think they got to go with Baker Mayfield. It's Baker Mayfield's job to lose.
Right.
You can't put basically a rookie, which is Kyle Trask still is.
Right.
In there with this offense. You've got Evans, you got Godwin. They're going to have to score points. And a healthy Baker Mayfield is not a bad football player. Remember, he got Cleveland. Again, we're saying Cleveland to the playoffs.
Right. Oh,
Think how strange that is saying. In fact, that was probably the worst day for Pittsburgh I mean, it's 28-0 in the first quarter, right,
Yeah,
Ralph?
exactly.
Yeah, playoff day.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, what the heck's going on here?
Smokin' Jim likes Baker Mayfield, right? Smokin' Jim.
Yes, sir.
That's
Yes,
his favorite
sir.
quarterback.
I'll tell you what, though, Ralph. Here's the strange thing. Vegas got their wins for over/under at 6.5.
Mhm.
Now, I don't know what they're seeing with the rest of the division,
Right.
but you're talking about a team that won 9 games last year, and again, I think they're going to be better off without Brady because Brady was a statue back there.
Yeah,
Plus,
he was. He
plus,
was. He had a bad offensive line too. So
well, yeah, because
you
they
know,
all retired or got hurt. And I'll tell
right.
you what, when Brady wants to throw it 50 times a game, and that's a problem. You got to run the ball to keep that defense off the field.
Absolutely. You got to run the ball, play action, and you can't just keep running the football. I know a coach that did that in the USFL last year named Kirby Wilson. Every play he called was a running play for the Maulers, and the Maulers didn't get nowhere last year. And at least this year they opened up the playbook a little bit and ran a little bit, and they got a running quarterback. So that saves from the bad offensive line by having a running quarterback. So that works out for the Maulers. But I mean, you have to have play action, and you can manage the game with play action. So if you don't have any play action, forget it. You're done. I'm hearing stories now, Leo, that today there was a story out that Tom Brady's coming back. You think he'll come back, and to whom would he, if he was to come back? Who would he play
Well,
for?
the funny thing is, I think he's still under contract here, so that
Okay.
there'd have to be some serious negotiation as to letting him out. In fact, I don't think he wanted to be here last year. I think he wanted to
Right.
move on. And the
Yeah.
Bucks made perfect. He said, "Yeah, fine. Give me 2 number ones, maybe a third number one. That'll take care of Tom Brady." And
Right.
you know what, Ralph? We look at quarterbacks, and when they go south in a hurry. And we have no data on a quarterback in his 40s. Yeah,
Right.
we got George Blanda. He was a kicker, but I don't know. I don't know how much tread's left on that tire for number 12. It's
Right.
just you look at what's going on, and right now he's the dinosaur. You got to have a mobile quarterback. He is
Yeah.
about as least mobile person as you can get.
Right. Well, that's what you have to do, Leo, because there's times you'll get injuries on the offensive line. And if you can't fill in those injuries, you might as well forget about it. I mean, it's, especially with a guy like that. That's one of the reasons when Roethlisberger retired, he, toward the end of his career, he couldn't get out of the pocket. I mean, I remember when he used to run and he couldn't tackle him. I mean, it was crazy with Roethlisberger. And, but now, I'm hearing stories now that Tom Brady wants to come back. I don't see that happening. And if he does, I feel bad for you guys down there in Tampa because, like you said, he's not a mobile quarterback, and it's just and I think by him being gone, I think Tampa can grow in a different way, and I hope that they do well because I think Todd Bowles is walking on eggshells this year. Is that the case?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They got to win the division again because if they
Right.
don't, they'll be looking to make changes. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so because I said, watch, Todd Bowles going to be walking on eggshells, and it's going to be a situation there. My next question to you is, and I don't know what you know about this, but I heard the Jacksonville Jaguars are trying to acquire or lease the Daytona 500 Speedway in order to play there because they need a place to play because they have to do some construction, remodeling, fixing up the stadium there. What do you think? Do you think that's going to happen?
Well, I'll tell you what. We saw what happened at Bristol when I think it was Virginia Tech played Tennessee there.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
It was 140,000 people there. Yeah, great. All one but I don't know how. I would think they may go another route, and maybe talk about going down to Gainesville,
right,
stadium
and playing
there.
at Florida's place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or even go up to Georgia. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
it's something you want to look at and see what happens. But yeah, it's
Well, hey,
I don't know
the
how
LA
much of an
Chargers
option
played in
that
a
is.
soccer stadium, so there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Leo, thanks for being on the program today. I really appreciate you being on, and Smoking Jim, you have any
Welcome to
questions
Amped
for
Up
Leo?
Sports, buddy.
No, man, Leo was great as usual.
All right, thank you, Leo. I'll be getting in touch with you. You know, we're going on the radio next week on Beaver County Radio here in Pittsburgh, and I'm taking the Amped Up Sports with us. I already talked to them over there. It's no problem. And yesterday I just joined Sideline Sports too, so I have both you guys.
Nice.
You know, with JB Ellis and the guys over there. So, all right, Leo, thank you for having us on Amped Up Sports, and you have yourself a great night, and watch the weather down there.
Yeah, I will. I'll tell you, last week was crazy. So I was up in South Carolina.
Right.
That was the biggest problem. It was like, whoa, look out. So,
all right.
All right. Hey, always a pleasure, Ralph, and welcome to Amped Up Sports.
Thanks, Leo. I appreciate you. Have a great one. Thank you.
You too. Bye.
All right. That was Leo Haggerty from Amped Up Sports talking about stuff down in Florida, Tampa stuff. Smoking Jim, what's your thoughts on what Leo had to say?
Man, Leo nailed it as usual, man. It's just great to hear what's going on down in the southern part of our country.
Yeah, we have to sort of mix things up a little bit on this program. I can't have always talking about the same old thing all the time. You know what I'm saying? At least we have variety. All right, I want to get to our sponsors here. I want to talk about Hillcrest Farm. And I was there on Saturday, Smoking Jim, and I spoke with Taylor and Caitlin, and I was able to talk to them. I picked up another beef box, so, you know, while I was there. And they've changed their name. They're now called Hillcrest Beef. So how you like that for a name? They're now called Hillcrest Beef on the farm. So I wanted to let you know about that. Yes, Hillcrest Beef on the farm. And I urge you, please, everyone, to take a ride to Hillcrest Farms and meet the owners, Caitlin and Taylor. I got to tell you, it's a great thing there. It's not far from Steubenville. It's 45 minutes from Pittsburgh, 50 at the most. And, you know, and that little town of Richmond, Ohio is just one beautiful looking little small town. And, you know, if you want to get out of this air here and breathe some of that air over there, you can do that as well. But get up to Hillcrest Farm, Hillcrest Beef, okay? And get up there. They have some great package deals. Give them a call, 740-346-5442 or 740-632-2894. And don't forget, Hillcrest Farms, Ohio, at gmail.com is their email address. And they are also have their own website. And get this now, Smoking Jim, they are now shipping. So you can get on their website and get it shipped. You don't have to go to the farm. You can get it shipped.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, Caitlin told me on Saturday they just started about a month ago doing shipping. So I wanted to let everyone know they're starting to ship, just like the rest of the other companies that ship. They're shipping now too. All right, and you can also check out their website, www.hillcrestfarmohio.com, and on their Facebook page at Hillcrest Beef, and that's on their Facebook page, their new one for Hillcrest Farm, Hillcrest Beef on the farm. And I'm also here today to talk to you about Draft 412. Draft 412 is a website. In fact, I got a bunch of skinny stuff today from Draft 412. I want to thank Joe Kuglis and Dave Finoli for the stuff they're giving me. I tell you what, if you get one of their, the subscription is very cheap. It's less than a small cup of coffee a day. It's not even that, perhaps. Okay. Actually, remember how you used to go out and buy quarter candy at the bulk candy store? Well, guess what? That's about what you'll pay when you subscribe to Draft 412. Get on their website, Draft 412. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to get a subscription every month because it pays. They tell you everything about all the drafts. We have the baseball draft, or hockey draft coming up, baseball draft coming up as well. And I got it, and the trade deadlines and everything. We'll even tell you about that. NBA draft, football, the NFL draft. You know, we've had Joe on the show many times to talk about the NFL draft. So try Draft 412. And I also want to talk to you today about DJ Fun. DJ Fun is a DJ who does parties, weddings, and special events. In fact, I talked to DJ Fun just recently. He met with a woman in regards to a fundraiser that he's doing for the Republican Party. Get that, Smoking Jim. He's doing a gig for the Republican Party. So anyway, 412-545-4317. Call DJ Fun today. 15 years of experience in doing DJ work. And also, I got to tell you, he's been telling with this lady, and the same thing happened again and again and again. She called a DJ, and for the 4 hours that she needs a DJ for, this DJ wanted $700. Then she called another DJ, 545-4317. And we're here in the First Line Consultant Services studios here in the Allentown section of the city of Pittsburgh. Later on, Smokin' Jim, I got a whole list of people, and I want you and I to put together a top 10 of the interviews of Stan Savran, okay? And I have a lot of ones that he's done over the years. I couldn't get them all, but I got some of them, so we'll do that later. Let's talk about the Penguins right now until we wait for Marty Leap. He'll be on with us in a couple of minutes. And then later on, we have our new guest who's new to the show, Noah Hiles. He is the beat reporter for the Post-Gazette for Pitt, and he's going to talk to us about Pitt football. Their training camp is coming up in August. They have a pretty reasonable schedule. I want to talk to him about some of the preliminary reports about where Pitt's going to be this year and the bowl game they're going to be in and everything else. We spoke about that, Smokin' Jim. All right, the Penguins free agency begins July 1st. Granlund, who really hasn't done anything since he's been traded to here. He didn't do anything at all throughout the season. None of the guys that got traded here, they either got hurt, Bonino, and that Kozagloff, he got hurt too. So, I mean, you know, it's none of them have done anything since they've been here. What's your thoughts on the Penguins, Smokin', Jim?
Well, I'll tell you what, man, they're doing what they need to do. They got, the player development, guy in there. They're going to bring in the GM pretty soon. And those are the foundation blocks that you need to build an organization. So I think they got one good guy. They'll get another good one in there. They got some money to play around with. And, this is all part of the process of rebuilding and reloading.
Oh, absolutely. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about the Steelers here while we wait for Marty Leap. He's going to tell us about the Pirates. He'll be coming on shortly, so we'll see where that goes there. The Steelers. All right, let's see. They brought in Nick Kwiatkowski, former Atlanta Falcons linebacker, for an audition today or over the weekend, and also minicamp is this week. We'll get back to the Steelers later, because Marty Leap is here from Rum Bunter to talk to us about the Pittsburgh Pirates. Marty, welcome to the program. How you doing, Marty?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
All right, super. It's great to have you. We're in a rain delay, I see. And also, I want to ask you a question here. We're dedicating tonight's show to Stan Savran. What was your interaction with Stan Savran, if at all, and what do you have to say about Stan?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it'd be wrong not to start any show in Pittsburgh these next few days without, mentioning Stan and sending thoughts and prayers and condolences and whatnot to his friends and family. And one story I mentioned on Twitter last night about Stan that I'll always remember is, like so many people my age in my generation growing up in Pittsburgh with sports beat and with things of that nature.
Right.
Stan Savran helped so many people fall in love with sports while growing up.
Oh, yes, he did.
And, I was definitely one of those kids. And I remember the first time I met Stan, I was like 11 or 12 years old, something like that. I'm at a Pirate game, wherever it was. And I just remember going up to him and like being nervous to talk to him, which anyone who knew Stan, like, knew you never need to be nervous around him because he took time for everybody. But I just remember as a kid meeting Stan Savran for the first time and thinking to myself, like, man, this is cooler than like meeting the president or something. And that's just who he was to so many people. And like I said, anyone who knew Stan knew you didn't need to feel the nerves or anything because that's not how he was. He went out of his way, took time for everybody. As great as he was at his job, he was an even better human being. And obviously he will be so dearly missed by so many people.
Smokin' Jim, say hello to Marty Leap from Rum Bunter.
Hey, Marty, how you doing, buddy?
Pretty good, brother. How you doing?
All right. Marty, we're going to be still doing this podcast, but we're going to be doing it on a rotating basis. We're going to try to do at least 2 or 3 a month here on the to keep it here on the podcast as well. But also, we're, as you know, next Tuesday we go on the radio with Beaver County Radio, and you're invited to come on. I have you scheduled to come on. I think in 2 weeks. Not this week, not the 27th, but the week after, and that's going to be on July 6th, because we're not going to be doing the show on July 4th. It'll be on July 6th. Okay, so
that sounds good to me.
All right. Anyway, the main reason I had you on here tonight is what's your thoughts on the Pirates right now? I know they got some pitching issues with Ronzi Contreras, and then they got that and then Velasquez is down now. Where does this team go here? They're bringing up that guy Biko, and what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think one thing with the pitching staff, and I wrote a little bit about this on runbunner.com today, is Luis Ortiz all of a sudden becomes very important.
Yeah.
And my thing with Ortiz, the kid has the potential. He's a top 100 prospect by Fangraphs. He's a top 100 prospect by Baseball America.
Mm-hmm.
The talent's there. We've seen it in flashes, but he needs a consistent third pitch. Make no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If it were not for the injuries and Contreras pitching poorly, he'd still be at AAA because he has things to work on. But, I mean, if you're the Pirates, you feel pretty good about that top three of Keller, Hill, and Oviedo. But you need someone to fill the back end of this rotation if you're going to keep competing in this National League Central Division. Mm-hmm. And Ortiz becomes very important because barring injury, he's going to be in this rotation probably for the rest of the season. So an opportunity for him really to grow up before our eyes here in the majors. And, Luis Ortiz all of a sudden has become a very, very important piece of the puzzle for the Pirates.
Yeah, I know. He was only pitching like 4 innings or something every time. I watched a few of the games, and I was like, wow, man, what are they going to do with this Ortiz? I mean, I guess they must really need him, but they have to keep him up here and all. I didn't know Ronzi Contreras was that bad, as far as the way he was pitching for a little bit there, here and there. Rich Hill seems to be sort of up and down. He had an 8-7 record last year with Boston. What do you think you think it's going to be quite the same, or is he on a roll now?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I can't say I'm overly worried about Rich Hill. The guy he's a crafty veteran lefty. He finds ways to get people out. He steps up when his team needs him to step up. I mean, I know his first start of the year against the Reds, he had that poor first inning. He got pummeled that second start against the White Sox, but in 11 starts since then, he's got a 3.41 ERA. And you'll take that all day long for your number 3.
Oh, absolutely.
Number 4 type starter like Hill is. Yeah. So, I mean, I think Hill's just going to continue to consistently give you 5, 6, on occasion 7 quality innings, and you're going to take it all day long. I think, me personally, I think what's nice about Hill is you look at like this last Friday against the Mets, for example, coming off those back-to-back losses against the A's, you really needed to start, really needed to put a foot down, and that's what he did. He came out and did what veterans do.
No, I'm laughing about the A's.
Oh, yeah. A's. I mean, Hey, Oakland A's are the hottest team. Apparently, all the Oakland A's had to do is play some good baseball teams.
Hey, thank the Pirates for that, right, guys?
Well, I made the joke that the Pirates, they were playing 4D chess. They got the A's hot to send them to Milwaukee, knowing you had the struggling Mets coming to town. So Oakland could go sweep Milwaukee where you take 2 or 3 of the Mets, go back to first place. But, even his previous start against St. Louis, the bullpen had covered like 13 innings the previous 2 days, and Hill came out and gave you 7 strong and just did what a veteran does. So right now, I feel very good about where Rich Hill is at.
What do you think? The Pirates have to fix this leaving men on base stuff. I watched them constantly leave men on base. Bases loaded, can't get a hit, and then all of a sudden they hit a home run when there's nobody on base. How do you fix that? Do you have to get some guys in here? Leo Haggerty was just on from Tampa, and he was asking me about what's his face we just got from the Rays, the one that's on
Troy.
Yeah. What's the story with him right now?
I mean, he has started to return to baseball activities, fielding ground balls, moving the bases, things like that. So hopefully, maybe you're looking at being a couple weeks out from a rehab stint, getting him back. I mean, I do think adding Choi would benefit you is as good as Carlos Santana has been with the glove this year. He's not an everyday bat anymore at his age. And if you can get Choi back to where you can start to split that time a little more, instead of Santana having to start 9 out of every 10 games, maybe you can bump that down to 6 out of every 10, and help him keep his legs fresh, keep the bat fresh. Choi can help the lineup. with runners in scoring position, I think ultimately the biggest issue is there's still this lineup is at their core, they want to get on base. They're going Andy Haynes' approach. It was the same way when he's in Milwaukee, was work the count, get deep in the count, get on base, which is great. That's fine. That's how you get guys on base.
Right.
Once you get guys on base, you've got to change that approach. You've got to know, hey, there's a good shot. If I'm coming up with men on first and second, bases loaded, whatever it is, this pitcher's going to want to get ahead in the count. They're not going to risk put me on. So
Right.
you got to know early in the count, you might get, first, second pitch might be the only pitch you get to hit. You got to jump on it. So I would like to see them be a little bit more aggressive at the plate with the bases loaded. And I mean, ultimately, too, I think we got to you need to be honest with yourself with where this lineup's at. They're not a bad lineup, but they're not going to confuse anybody for some great lineup either. I mean, Andrew McCutcheon's having a tremendous season. Connor Joe's quietly having a good season.
Yes.
Brian Hayes is finally starting to get going at the plate, it looks like. But Reynolds, I'm not worried about Brian Reynolds long term or anything, but he's not having a typical Brian Reynolds season, which is fine. Those are going to happen. But when you don't have a deep lineup and then you have that happen, and then you don't have O'Neal Cruz, and those are the kind of things that kind of pile up on you. So I do think too this lineup. I'm hopeful that at some point in the next few weeks we see Andy Rodriguez, we see Henry Davis. Hopefully you have Cruz back by late July, early August. You have those things occur and get Choi back from the injured list. I think those are things that can definitely internally you can take a lot of steps towards becoming a bit more consistent offensively.
All right, we have Paul here in the comments section. Why wait to move delay and just bring up Andy and or Henry Davis? Are they that far behind in development? What's the case?
I mean, I don't think they're far behind in development at all. I mean, at this point, both of them, you know what you have. I think right now it's a combination of the Super 2 stuff. It's a combination of the pitching staff is comfortable working with Hedges, and the pitching right now is what's carrying you. So you don't want to risk topping over that apple cart, but I would have them both up. And I wouldn't get rid of Austin Hedges by any means. I mean, I think Hedges.
Oh, no.
He can learn a lot from Austin Hedges.
Yeah, he's a good defensive catcher. That's the bottom line, Marty. I mean,
and my thing is too, if you have a starting pitcher, hey, look at Mitch Keller last start, for example. Hey, Mitch, you've had 2 or 3 clunkers in a row. We're gonna have Hedges catch you today, help get you back on track. That kind of thing. So I think Hedges can still provide a lot of value to this team. But yeah, I think Andy Rodriguez and Henry Davis both should be up here. I'd have them both in the lineup. I mean, between catcher, Davis has played a lot of right field. Andy Rodriguez can play first base. You have the DH, obviously. I mean, since they've been in Indianapolis, I think they've played 6 or 7 games now. They both have been in the lineup every single day. They're showing it can be done. So yeah, I personally would already have them up here. If I was a betting man, I'm not going to say we see them both, but I'm willing to bet we see at least one of them next week when they get back home against the Cubs. They like to debut their guys at home, which I totally understand. You want that debut to be as comfortable for somebody as possible.
Right.
And I believe it was June 20th of last year, 20th or 21st, when Cruz came up. You start a 3-game homestand on June 19th. If I was going to bet money on it, I'd bet that Monday against the Cubs, we see at least one of those 2 in Pittsburgh. So I don't think it'll be both. Not yet. I think you'll see one called up. You'll see the other then pretty much catch every day for Indy because they do want these guys catching a bit more yet. But I would be willing to bet we see one of the 2 next week.
Okay, are the Pirates doing what they normally do? They take a catcher and they put him at first base or third base like they've done in the past. Some of them. Are they going to do that?
I think they might, but I think this is a different situation too. Obviously things change when you have 2 catching prospects who are among the top 25 to 50 best prospects in all of baseball. It's not like pitching or the outfield where there's multiple spots available. Both of these guys, what makes them such highly touted prospects is that bat, especially Davis.
Okay.
So you want to have both those bats in the lineup. I think moving forward, I think this offseason you'll see them decide who they want to stick behind the dish, who they think is going to be the guy to play elsewhere. And now some of that may also depend on where they want that guy to play. If they decide to go outfield, I think you probably see Davis move to right field and Rodriguez stick behind the plate. If you want to move someone to first, I think you see Rodriguez do that and Davis stick behind the plate. But them moving these guys off catcher, it's only being done because you have both of them. When you have 2 catching prospects that highly touted who can both be plus bats in the majors, you just want to get those bats in the lineup. And I think that's where we're at with that.
Yeah, I'm tired of people complaining about Austin Hedges can't hit. I'll take his defensive catching any day, especially in that one A's game. If it wasn't for his defense, they probably could have scored a few more runs in that one game. And, so I'll take that any day of the week. And then it's nice that we have two catchers because last year we played this little, what was it called, catcher rotation game. And we brought this guy in, brought that guy in. Then we traded Stallings, and we ended up getting that Zach Thompson. And now Zach Thompson has moved on. So, I mean, it's just been a nightmare when it comes to catcher, and it's nice to have a consistency in Hedges. Smokin' Jim, you have anything for Marty tonight?
Oh, no. Awesome information, Martin. We appreciate it, buddy.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. Paul once again says, why can't Reynolds be consistent every year like the Pirate stars of the past? I feel he should be hitting at least 290 to 300 every year, no matter what. Thanks, Paul, for your comments. Go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Reynolds is having a bit of a down year, but if you look at his career numbers, he's kind of right there. He's a career 281 hitter, 360 on base, and 480 slugging. He's hitting 280 with a 351 on base and a 475 slugging.
Right.
So, I mean, while his overall numbers are down a tick from what we saw in that 2021 season when he was an all-star,
right,
he's kind of doing what he's always done. And you know what? That's fine. If he's going to be a guy who's going to hit 280 to 290, get on base at a 360 clip, give you an OPS in the 850 range, you're going to take that all day and be happy about it. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of teams who would love to be getting that out of one of their starting outfielders. And there's a lot of teams who would love to know, hey, I've got that locked up for the next 8 years. I understand some of the frustration. I think one of the frustrations that's going to come with Brian Reynolds is people see that contract, right? Largest contract in team history.
Yeah.
However, you've got to remember $106 million. That's just kind of the going rate in baseball anymore. That's honestly a bargain for him. So I think people need to keep that in mind too, where in the minds of a lot of Pirate fans, I think what they think of when they think of $100 million and the production that goes with that.
Yeah, well, I was in that
not necessarily aligned.
Yeah, I was one of them kind of people that said, he's making $100 million a year and he can't get, he leaves men on base. Like when there's men on base, he strikes out or whatever, grounds into a double play. And we can't seem to get any runs out of it, any run production. But then when there's nobody on base, he hits a home run. And Hayes is the same way. Hayes strikes out all the time when his base is loaded. I've seen that happen. So, I mean, but Hayes' bat's coming around and I'll give him that one a little bit. It's starting to come around.
And my thing too with Hayes, for $80 million, which I mean, again, to us, that's unbelievable money, but for Major League Baseball, it really isn't. With what he does defensively, that alone is going to justify that contract. He's the best, in my opinion, he's the best defensive player in baseball, regardless of position. That alone is going to justify Brian Hayes' contract. I've always said all the guy needs to do to really be an above average overall player is just be an average hitter. And he's doing that now. I mean, last 2 weeks, obviously, he's been well above that. But if you look at his overall numbers for the season, he's kind of right at about a league average as a hitter. And if you can give me a league average bat with probably the best defense in all of baseball, I will take that all day long.
Oh, absolutely. We have Marty Leap with us from the Rum Bunter. Marty's been on the show many times. We're talking Pirate baseball right now. Smokin' Jim, you have anything to add?
No, sir.
All right. Marty, I have a few more questions for you right now. If there is a chance that we could get a experienced pitcher in here to rather than using what we have in the minors, are the Pirates considering that option? Yes or no?
I think I would say yes, but with the caveat of, and I don't want to scare people with this comment, but I think it would need to be a Chris Archer type deal. What I mean by a Chris Archer type deal, before people get scared, is in theory, your window of competition is just now starting to open up. So what I mean by Chris Archer type deal, when they acquired Chris Archer, he still had 2 full seasons of team control following 2018 on his contract. That's what they're going to want. They're going to want a guy who they can control for the next 2-3 years and can become part of this core moving forward. Because whenever you're early in your window of competition like this, those are the kind of guys you want to go out and acquire. Those are the kind of guys you're going to be willing to move assets for. Because if you can go out and get I'm just going to throw, like, look at the American League Central is so bad that the Chicago White Sox probably won't sell. If the Chicago White Sox will fall completely out of it, just to give an example of a player name and contract. You look at a guy like Mike Kopech or a guy like Dylan Cease, so I think both come with 2 years of control. Those are the kind of guys you want to give up big assets for, because then you can put them in this rotation with Mitch Keller moving forward, with whoever else you bring in, with an Ortiz if he pans out, whoever it might be. Now, I think if we get to July and they're contending, they're going to add pitching in some fashion. They have to, even if it's just a 1-year rental off the cheap. But I think if you're going to see them add an impact arm in July, it's going to be someone who is controlled beyond this season, because that way, like I said, A, it's easier to justify giving up big pieces, and B, with this window of contention just now starting to open up, they can become part of that core moving forward. Because if you look moving forward, you feel pretty good, I think, about your core position players: Reynolds, Hayes, Cruz, Sawinski, the catching duo. You got to imagine at least one of those two are going to pan out. But with that injury to Mike Burrows, Quinn Priester struggled at AAA. Outside of Keller, there's not a whole lot there. And the bullpen, also, you feel phenomenal about this bullpen long term. But the starting pitching is your big question mark moving forward, looking to contend next year and beyond. So if you can acquire a guy, trade away from some organizational strength to do it, hey, by all means, I think they would entertain it.
All right, one more question from Paul before I let you go, Marty. He says some background info into Osvaldo Bido. Will he stay?
I don't think we see Bido terribly long. Maybe he gets more than one start. If he pitches well, I'm sure they'll keep riding him for a start or two. From what I've gathered, the main reason he got the call over Quinn Priester is they think there's still development to be done with Quinn Priester, and they don't want to rush him because he is much more prized of a pitching prospect. Bido was signed by the Pirates as international free agent in 2017. He's 27, 28 years old, career minor leaguer. Has never been bad in the minors, has never been great. It probably projects in the majors as kind of like if he would stick in the majors, as like a long man in a bullpen more so than a starter. But hey, if he can come out and give you 2 or 3 good starts here, kind of right this ship a little bit until you figure out what's going on with Contreras, till you get Priester ready, whatever it might be, you'll take it. But hey, if nothing else, I'm excited to see what the kid can do. He's definitely someone, he's been in the minor leagues for a long time. He's paid his dues. So let's see what he can come out and do.
All right, it's Vegas 2, Florida nothing. They just started the second period in the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs here. Marty, thanks for being part of the show. Promote yourself. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you and about Rum Bunter.
Yeah, absolutely. Rumbunter.com. We are associated with Fansided. We cover all things Pittsburgh Pirates. Especially, I always tell people every year July is the best month to check out Rum Bunter because we cover the draft probably better than anybody else out there. And then you combine that with the trade deadline, everything of that nature. July is always a super busy month. So find us at rumbunter.com, Rumbunter on Facebook, or at Rumbunter on Twitter. And my Twitter is at MSJ41817. So feel free to, if you don't already read us and follow, tag along.
All right. Paul says, great job. And he's thanking me and he's thanking you for Marty for being on the program. You're welcome, Paul. I always give my fans the best guests. So, all right, Marty, you have a great one. Thanks for being on the show. Smokin' Jimmy, have anything to say to Marty?
No, man. It was great, Marty. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Marty. And next, we have another guest coming on, and I want to welcome Noah Howes to the program. Thanks, Noah, for being on tonight, more or less. And I appreciate you being on to talk Pitt athletics for the Post-Gazette. It's great to have you on. Smokin' Jimmy, have anything to say to Noah?
Hey, welcome to the show, Noah.
All right.
Hey, glad to be here, guys. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Noah, what's going on right now with Pitt football? The predictions are 8-4, and they're going to be in the Great Taco Bowl or whatever you want to call it there. What's your thoughts on this season for Pitt?
I think that they have potential to have a season similar to last year, maybe a little bit better.
Right.
Ralph, just looking at what they returned. I mean, you got to remember this is a team that lost some NFL talent just in the last 2 years, especially this last year with multiple guys getting drafted and then even more guys getting signed to NFL free agent deals. but they also return a lot of guys. I think that they're going to have one of the better defenses in the ACC. I think that they're going to have one of the better offensive lines in the ACC. They lost the best running back in the conference last year, but they return a really strong running back. Right. And they're going to be able to run the football. I think the big difference maker here could be at quarterback with Phil Dracovic.
Yes.
This isn't going to be a guy who's going to be like Kenny Pickett in 2021. He's not going to be a Heisman finalist.
But you can win with him. Is that it? No,
and that's exactly it. This is a guy
and he's won. I mean, he's
won football games, and this is the most talented team that he's been on as a starter. It's not the Notre Dame teams that he played on as a backup, but he's going to be in a position to win this team football games. And if Pitt had him as its quarterback last year, Ralph, I think that team probably wins 9 or 10 games or 10 or 11 games, I should say, rather than 9, because I think quarterback play prevented that team from really reaching its full potential. I think that this team has a challenging schedule, but that's what you want in college football. You want to be playing ranked opponents. You want to be playing in primetime games to get yourself in the mix for that, those national rankings. I don't think they'll start the season ranked, but I think if they open the season with a win against Wofford, they win at home against Cincinnati, and then on the road at WVU, they're going into their ACC schedule 3-0, probably ranked, playing a North Carolina team led by Drake May. You're setting yourself up for a very opportunistic season. So, I think that there are a lot of positives heading into this Pitt team. But, with Pitt, they're going to lose a game that they're not supposed to. They're going to win a game they're not supposed to. And they're going to be in the mix to win 8 or 9. I think it'll be a similar season to last year. They'll play in a respectable bowl. And they'll probably be somewhere between
it's the Duke's Mayo Bowl. No,
something like that, a Sun Bowl, Duke's Mayo Bowl. They'll be anywhere from 20 to 30 in the country, which for this program, not too long ago, a lot of fans would have been signing up for that.
Oh, I know. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right now we have to accept it for what it is. I mean, it's a Pitt program, and, it's good to the fact I beat up Narduzzi pretty bad a few years back. And, because, the loss in the bowl game and some other things, so I beat him up pretty bad. But last year, surprised me a lot. And I mean, we went into the Western Michigan game with a backup quarterback who never played it down, and we ended up winning. So, I mean, and I got to give kudos to him for that, Pat Narduzzi. The interesting part about this is, who's the backup? That kid from Penn State? I always have trouble pronouncing his name. Is it Valoy or Valou?
Christian Veyer, actually. I get a nice little assist here from my coworker, Andrew Destin, a Penn State alum who covers the Pirates and the Penguins at the Post-Gazette. You should check out his stuff. But he helps me with the pronunciations, and, everyone at the PG makes me look a lot better at my job than what I really am. But he's someone, Ralph, that I think that Pitt fans should be really excited about. I think pure talent, he might be the top quarterback on the roster. He's not the guy who should start this year, because you're bringing in a very, very experienced veteran quarterback in Phil Dracovic, a guy who understands this offense better than anyone in the country because of his previous relationship with Frank Signetti Jr. But when Phil's gone, they've got the next guy lined up. And
yes, they do. That's the good part. Like a Nick Patty. Nick Patty won. I mean, every time he played. And I mean, and I think we would have won that bowl game 2 years ago if he didn't get hurt.
I agree. So, I mean, and yes, there are a lot of people on Pitt's campus, including some people in that facility, that think they probably would have won more games last year if number 12 was the starter all year. I'm not going to say who thinks that, but
I thought that too.
A lot of people think that.
I was not a Keaton Slovis fan, and when I watched, I was at a few of the home games, and I mean, I was just not a fan of his at all. He just, just like when we had Max Brown, I mean, from USC, and I say, here we go, another USC quarterback that transfers to Pitt and don't play well at all. And I think we need to start leaving the USC alone and quit, bringing these people in here.
And Slovis, I feel bad partially for Keaton because I think a couple of things just didn't break his way. One, this wasn't the offense that Keaton Slovis signed up to play in. He signed up to play in a Mark Whipple offense when Kenny Pickett
and then
was
Whipple
playing,
left.
And Whipple left. So exactly. And I think if Pitt had a spread offense, he probably would have been better. Another factor, if Pitt had Jordan Addison, who they still had when he committed.
Smokin Jim's buddy, Jordan Addison.
I think if they still had Jordan Addison, I think Keaton Slovis probably would have he probably would have thrown for more than 10 touchdowns last year.
Oh, yeah.
So those two things, you add those in, you add in the concussion that he had early in the season, and the way they kind of eased him back in that Rhode Island game, I thought they should have been a little bit more aggressive with their passing, because they get to the ACC schedule and he didn't feel comfortable in that offense. It was evidently clear, and he lost.
It was like
confidence.
trying to shove a square peg into a round hole.
Right. It just wasn't.
He didn't expect Cignetti, and because Cignetti, I know Cignetti because he coached under Dave Wannstedt,
right?
And he's been a head coach, in college, in the small teams and whatnot. So I know Cignetti likes to run the football, and that's why Wannstedt hired him when Wannstedt was here, and things like that. My next question to you is this. How do they make up for the defense that's some of the guys that left that went to the NFL and some of the guys that transferred? What's going on with the defense?
There's one guy who makes up for it. His name's Charlie Partridge, and he's the best defensive line coach in the country.
And the best recruiter.
Yes, and he is the kingmaker, is what they call him in Oakland. He takes 3 stars and he turns them into millionaires, and he's done it time and time again. His latest project was a guy named Kalijah Cansey, and if you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, you're going to hear a lot about him here, right?
Yeah, my friend Peter Blake down there, he does a show called The Sports Web, which is part of Anthem Sports, which is Amped Up Sports, which is what I'm part of now. Our show's on with Amped Up Sports. And Peter Blake had difficulty pronouncing his and Savossier Dennis's name. And I had to show him, I says, Peter, it's Kalijah Cansey, and it's Savossier Dennis.
I'll tell you what, Ralph. I mean, imagine it's my first year covering Pitt and trying to spell all those last names and first names. You got Habakkuk Baldonado, Deslin Alexander. I mean, it was tough. But looking at Pitt's defense, yes, they replaced that entire defensive line, but that defensive line's a factory. They have 4 stars ready and waiting. You've got Elliot Donald, who's going to step up. You've got in Beaver County, pretty good Beaver County defensive lineman named Sean Fitzsimmons.
That's where we're going next week. Yes. I'm going to be on Beaver County radio, and you'll be invited to the show at times.
Yeah, and he'll be a big factor. You've got a West Mifflin kid, Nakai Johnson, and then you've got Dayon Hayes, who was a city league star.
Yeah, the kid from Westinghouse, Dayon Hayes. Yeah,
they are very high on all of those guys and more, and they have a lot of talented guys ready to step up. But if you look past that defensive line, they returned 2 starters at linebacker. They returned 3 starters at corner, 2 who are definitely going to be NFL draft picks next year. One of them, another Beaver County guy, MJ Devonshire from Aliquippa.
Yes, absolutely.
And they have a lot of playmakers coming in at safety too. Javon McIntyre started toward the end of the year last year. He's an Imhotep charter kid from the other side of the state. You have Donovan McMillan coming in from Florida, a Peters Township kid who transferred in from the portal. The star of the spring game, Philip O'Brien Jr., PJ O'Brien.
I saw him play a few times. That O'Brien kid, I like him.
They've got a lot of playmakers.
Grit, man, he does.
Yeah, their secondary is going to be good. I think it'll be one of the better secondaries in the ACC, if not the country. The defensive line's a question mark, but I'm willing to bet on Charlie Partridge and churning out some defensive line talent. And their linebackers, like I said, they returned 4 lettermen at that spot and 2 starters. I think their defense is going to be really solid. The question is going to be, can they move the ball through the air? They didn't have a great receiving core last year, I don't think.
They need to get Gavin Bartholomew more involved.
I think that's going to be a big key.
They're going to have to do that.
Yes, and I expect them to do that just because they don't have a lot of depth at receiver. And I think they have a quarterback that knows, in Cignetti's offense, you got to throw the tight end the ball. You look at the last time Frank was here, he had 2 All-American tight ends.
Yes, he did.
Jordan
Nate Byam and a few other guys. Yes.
Yeah, and they were the keys to that. I mean, John Baldwin obviously benefited pretty well from it on top of things, but it was a lot of 12 and 13 personnel with just 1 wide receiver, 2 tight ends, 2 running backs, and everybody ate. And it's if you get a quarterback who can really learn that system, you can get some guys some opportunities, and I think that we'll see that next fall here with 86.
Okay, we're going to go to comments section here, Noah. Paul says, why does it seem that Pitt gets ranked in the top 25? They lose the next week. Is it me, or does this always happen? Yeah, it does. Paul, unfortunately, but yeah. It's something that we don't like, but it's consistent with it.
Yeah, I mean, you got to take that up.
As long as I've been following them and been a fan and all that,
Paul, you got to take that up with your local witch doctor or religious figure. I mean, that's a supernatural thing.
The fish that saved Pittsburgh.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Remember? Did you ever see Beverly Hills Cop 2? Did you ever see that?
A long time ago. It's been a minute.
Remember the part
they all
when he
kind of
says,
blur together at one point.
Remember this part? He says, my name is Johnny Wishbone, and I'm here to help from the Isle of St. Croix.
Yeah.
Maybe we need Johnny Wishbone or something.
There
all
you
right.
go.
Next, Paul says also it seems they can never bust that wall down after they get ranked. Is that the that's the case, Noah? Right?
Yeah. I mean, there's certain years. I mean, I think they busted that wall down in 2001. They finished number 12 in the country. They would have been a playoff team if they had the extended playoff format back then. But yeah, I get what he's saying. I get it. Like, there's that frustration where every time you feel like the Pitt Panthers have momentum, they trip over their own feet, and
Right.
that's got to be something that stops. But that's not just a Narduzzi thing. That's every
That's
coach.
been a Pitt thing forever.
That's a Walt Harris thing.
Yeah,
that's
Walt Harris. Dave
Wonstadt
Wonstadt lost some games,
The
like
first
that
Pitt
Ohio game. Oh
yeah,
my
the first
gosh!
Pitt game I ever went to in my life. They were ranked number 25.
Boring Matt Cavanaugh's offense. Boring Matt
They
Cavanaugh.
lose the Bowling Green in the beginning
Jeez,
of the year. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, it's been like that for many years. I mean, I seen them lose games, even when Dan Marino was around, and they lost to a sad Temple team. I remember that, and I saw that game, and it was sad.
It was,
but I was at Pitt Stadium for that. No, let's talk a little bit about men's basketball and the women's basketball. The new coach. What's your thoughts on this new women's basketball coach?
He's a winner. I mean, if you look at his track record, I believe he was at Eastern Michigan.
Right.
He made that team competitive, brought it to the women's NIT. He goes to UMass, and he brought UMass to the national tournament for the first time, I think, in like 30 years. He made – and that in the Atlantic 10 in women's basketball, I don't know if how big of Atlantic 10 women's basketball fans your listeners are, but it's a pretty competitive conference. It's a very passionate conference. I found out once I broke the news that he was coming here, but Tony wins, and he's going to try to bring that winning tradition to Pittsburgh. He's got his work cut out for him. A lot of that roster's gone, but that might not be a bad thing. I mean, Lance is
if it's just a portal right now, I think you might be able to get some people in here, and we're dying. We haven't had a good team since Agnes Baronato.
Yes.
I mean, I knew Agnes personally because at the time I was driving a bus, and then I was working at Heinz Field, and then when I was driving a bus, I picked her daughter up one time, and she was real nice. She came on the bus. She says, "Is your name Ralph?" And I said, "Yes." And she says, "I want to thank you for taking care of my daughter, because every time her daughter got on a bus, I made sure she got off at the right stop. I made sure she was okay getting on and off the bus." So she was real happy about that. And then when I saw her at Heinz Field when I was working there, she remembered my name and said, "Hey, how are you, Ralph? How's everything?" And this was 3 years later. So, I mean, it wasn't like she forgot about me or anything. And I've seen people do that. But the problem with Agnes was she kept having all her former players who couldn't recruit coach with her as an assistant coach. And I think that was the biggest problem with that.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened to Susie McConnell-Cero. I mean, she had all the accolades to be the coach of Pitt women's basketball, and she just stunk the joint up, and I don't know what happened to her.
Well, I mean, I think if you go back and you look at what Lance White achieved or lack thereof, I think both of them look like Pat Summitt compared to him. So, I mean, that's the program's in a tough spot, but like you mentioned, and with the portal, that's the benefit of going and getting a guy who has a successful track record at mid-majors. Is you get that coach, but you also get his staff, and you get the good players from his team.
Exactly,
and
his team will transfer. Yes, I've seen that happen.
He's going to get a lot of it.
Yeah.
You see at Penn State now, in men's basketball, where they hire that VCU coach. He gets his top VCU guys, and he's bringing in guys from other Atlantic 10 teams. So that's what can happen for Pitt. I mean, it's going to be a long-term thing. I think it's not going to happen overnight. But I'll say this with Pitt. When Heather Lyke puts her mind to something, good things have typically worked out pretty well, and she's made.
I wanted to run Jeff Capel out of town until last year.
Yeah.
This past season, believe me.
She's stuck with
I wanted to run him out, and I wanted Narduzzi fired because it just seemed like we were coming up short every year, especially that time when we lost them. That some key games, and we were 6-5, and and went to some dinky bowl and lost again. You know what I mean? It was just I wanted to run, and I wanted Lyke's job. I wanted her out. I just I wasn't.
What do you think of her now, though, Ralph?
Yeah, I know. I got to eat it. You know, and there's not too many times I'm wrong. You can ask Smokin' Jim; he'll tell you that. There's not too many times I'm wrong. I was wrong about that.
Was he wrong, Smokin' Jim?
Yeah, Smokin' Jim. He's asking you, is that right?
That's right. That's right, brother.
All right.
Yep. Yeah. Let's talk about Jeff Capel and the men's basketball team. They had a successful season this year. At least I think they did, and it was great to see them in the tournament. It was sad they couldn't move any further, but I was happy to see where they went in this thing. And it just so happened I was in Youngstown when Youngstown State was in the NCAAs, and I happened to be down there at the time for some unfortunate things. My nephew passed away at the beginning of April. He was 18 years old. He was in a bad car crash in Grove City, and they helicoptered him down to Youngstown. And I stayed. I was down there practically the whole month of March, so I got to see what Youngstown State was up to. They filled their arena up, and they didn't have enough seats because they were supposed to play Oklahoma State at their place, but Oklahoma State couldn't play it because they had the place scheduled for something else. They had a concert or something going on there, and they didn't want to cancel the concert. So what they did was they moved it to Youngstown State, and Youngstown was just nuts. They were going bananas. Oh yeah, yeah. It was. I think it was like the Super Bowl came to Youngstown.
That's crazy.
You know? Yeah. But it was nice to see the men's team, and I think this year, I think that they're going to carry it forward. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean they've got a lot of talent. They have a lot of talent. It's a lot of young talent. I think the problem isn't on the court. I think it's going to be in the locker room. I think it's just got to be about building team chemistry. I think that's what it's going to come down to. That was the catalyst for their success last year. But, they had a lot of veteran guys last year. Mm-hmm. It's easy to build chemistry, I think, when you have mature players who have all achieved stuff. You had a lot of guys who had played in March Madness prior to their time at Pitt, so they kind of knew what it took. It's a lot different when it's a whole bunch of young guys who haven't really been there. And that's going to be the case. I mean, they returned some key figures from last year's team, like Fede Federico, Blake Hinson, the Diaz-Graham twins. But when you're asking a lot of young guards to run the show, you're going to need some young men to really step up and be mature. So that's going to be interesting to see how it goes. But they have a lot of talent.
Vegas Knights 4, Florida 1, Panthers 1 in the second period. Wow.
Love to hear that.
Yeah, I think Florida might be done, but we'll see. You never know.
Yeah.
Noah, thanks for being on the program. I appreciate you being on. I'll be in touch with you because we're going to still be doing the podcast on occasion here. And then we're also going to be we start our radio show next Tuesday in Beaver County Radio. So I'll be having you on there as well. I'll be reaching out to you. Thanks, Noah, for your insight. And Smokin' Jimmy, have anything you want to add?
No, hey, thanks for coming on, Noah. Great job.
Hey, I'm glad to be on. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you. Have a great one. That was Noah House. He's the beat reporter for the Post-Gazette that handles Pitt Athletics. All right, Smokin' Jim, what's your thoughts on Pitt Athletics this year?
Well, like you said, they're improving as far as the basketball team. Hopefully they can build on that improvement and take the next step next year, and we'll see with the football team. Hopefully the football team will get to 10 wins again.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. That hasn't happened since Wannstedt was the coach, and I would like to see that happen. All right, let's get into our other local sports folks here. The Maulers, they beat Michigan, believe it or not, 16-7. This is their second win against Michigan. They won their third game of the year. Next week, if they win against New Jersey at Canton, they go to the playoffs, believe it or not. Can you believe this? Ray Horton may have this team in the playoffs. What do you think of the Maulers?
Wow, disappointing season.
Yeah,
I believe even if they do make the playoffs, but if they're starting to play better football down the stretch, who knows? Maybe they can win a playoff game and build for next season. I did not like the uniform change. I wish they would stay with the original uniform.
You like the original purple, huh?
Everybody in Pittsburgh wants to go to the black and gold, so you can't blame them for that.
Right, exactly. But I thought the most disappointing game was the one that they lost to Houston. No, I think it was Houston, and they lost 20-19. And Chris Blewett was making field goals all day long, And then all of a sudden at the end, he didn't make that last field goal. And you heard when I text you, I said, blew it. He blew it.
Yeah.
He blew it, man. And I was like really pissed. And then I says, oh, man. Can you just imagine if he could take back a couple of those bad losses there, like that one and the one that they could have beat? There was another game that they could have won, but they had too many penalties and stupid mistakes and whatnot. If they could have just cleaned their act up in them 2 games, I think that, they would be in the playoffs right now. We wouldn't be having this discussion about whether or not they're going to be. They would be. You know what I mean? And that's just where I think, but at least it's improvement. It's 2 games over last year. They won 1 game. So, I mean, we'll see what they do the rest of the way here. They have 1 more game left against New Jersey. They win next week. They go to the playoffs. So we'll see what happens there. All right. The Riverhounds, then 14 games are 7-5-2. They were starting to have a disappointing season. They caught up. They're now ahead. They're first place in the Eastern Division of the USL, and they are this Saturday. Last week they played and beat Charleston 2-0, and this week they play the Oakland Roots. You know what? I didn't know Oakland had a team. They play Oakland in Oakland. I didn't even know they had any other team. I thought they were done. Oh, my. I wonder if they'll vote down to build them a new stadium. Oh, my gosh. So, anyway, the Passion ended up with an even record 3-3 in 6 games this year. They lost last week 32-12 to Boston. They played Boston earlier in the season. They lost 61-0. So, at least it wasn't 61-0. But they're 3-3, and they're going to go to the first round of the playoffs. They're playing the Alabama Fire on June 27th, so they got a few weeks off to get that done. Your thoughts on our local teams, the Riverhounds and the Passion, Smokin' Jim?
Well, they didn't do a very good job of dedicating the season to Franco Harris, that's for sure.
Did you ever see Brian's Song? Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah, which I seen the first one.
Yeah, Brian's Song. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Remember when James Caan was laying in the bed there? He's Brian Piccolo, and he says, "When you dedicate a game to somebody, you win the game. You don't lose." Yeah, it was so funny when he did that. I said, he says, "You don't lose the game, Gail. Come on, man." Oh man, that was funny. All right. We're going to change the way we run. We're going to change the way we walk. In the movie, Remember the Titans, man. You got to see that one with Denzel. That was a good movie, too. All right, NBA. Denver Nuggets beat Miami last night. Everybody knows that. Denver was completely out of control. They haven't won anything in a long time, so I don't blame them for being out of control. What's your thoughts on this NBA playoffs?
I tell you what, man. Anytime you get John Elway to come back to Denver, it must be a big deal. He ain't been back there since he played. But not John Elway, I'm sorry, but Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning came back, and so it must be a big deal. But hey, congratulations to Denver. I tell you what, man, they proved that they got a really good team. They got a lot of good shooters. They got probably the best player in the NBA. So they're going to be hard to beat because not only are they talented, they're really tall, man. They got a big lineup, and they're hard to defend. And I tell you what, man, they may win it again next year.
XFL. You ready for this, Smokin' Jim?
Okay.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson has reported that the XFL lost $60 million this season.
Wow.
How in the world in a season do you lose $60 million?
Wow.
Paul says in the comment section, Smokin' Jim, Paul's a loyal watcher and listener of the show. Appreciate it. Thoughts on the XFL started really good. Then interest seemed to fall off. Now I hear they lost big money. What's their future? No, nothing's been announced, Paul. The Rock hasn't said he's going to shut it down. If he does, that's a shame. So, I mean, but we'll see what happens. But also, speaking of the XFL and speaking of former Steelers, Rod Woodson was stepped down or was fired by the Vegas Vipers. I saw that coming, Smokin' Jim. He played for Bill Cowher, played for Chuck Noll. And I saw some Bill Cowher coaching in him, some of the mess ups that Bill Cowher did over the years, poor clock management and some other dumb decisions he made. I saw it with my own eyes, and I said that was and I mean, Bill Cowher was a good coach, a Hall of Fame coach. He's in the Hall of Fame. But what I'm saying is, I think the Steelers could have probably won 4 more Super Bowls if Bill Cowher didn't make some of the dumb mistakes he made. And he is the winningest coach in the Pro Bowl. The winningest coach in the Pro Bowl. He is. I mean, and he's lost the most AFC championship games in the history of the NFL, too. So there you go.
Wow.
Yeah, it's sad. But Rod Woodson no longer a coach with the Vipers. So there you are there. All right, next we're going to talk about college football a little bit. Georgia Bulldogs, NCAA says that they have the easiest schedule in the entire thing this year. You used to see some of the teams they're playing. I don't have time to go over that right now. Jacksonville Jaguars, we spoke earlier. They might be playing at the Daytona 500. What do you think about this, Smokin' Jim? Jacksonville going to have to play somewhere else because for the next 2 years they're going to be fixing the stadium up. What do you think?
Yeah, whatever it takes, brother.
Yeah, you got that right. All right, next. Rumor, Tom Brady coming back. We already talked about that. Rumor, the Washington Commanders, Chase Young, is to be traded to the Bears for a second-round pick. You think that's going to happen, or you think the Steelers are going to get Chase Young?
I don't see Washington trading him, man. That guy can play.
I know he wants traded, though. He wants, but what you want, you always don't get. You know what I mean? So you know how that goes. So
well, you got to really be a sweet pot to get him, man.
Vegas.
It would take a lot for me to trade him.
2 minutes into the second period, Vegas 5, Florida 1. So, oh man, it's getting worse and worse. All right, Buffalo Bills wide receiver Stephon Diggs, no show from mandatory minicamp. Shannon Sharp gave a tearful cry for him leaving the Undisputed show. We talked about that last time here on Sports Corner. New England releases James Robinson, the running back, because he failed a physical. They signed him to a 2-year contract, Smokin' Jim, and then mandatory minicamp. The first day you have to take physicals, and he failed his. So he went bye-byes. New York Giants had a visit from Bill Parcells at their practice. So the NFL also, Houston Texans, J.J. Watt came back, but he didn't come back to play. He's coming back. He's going to be at the October 1st game against the Steelers down in Houston. He's going to be getting some kind of a gold ring or some kind of a ring of honor, they call it. Their idea of how the Steelers do it, their Hall of Honor, it's called the Ring of Honor there, and there's not too much Ring of Honor, believe me, for the Houston Texans. But that's what's going on down there. New York Jets signed former Packer defensive back Adrian Amos, 1 year, $4 million contract in Arizona. Budda Baker missing from minicamp. He is a no-show. A lot of that going on down there with Jonathan Gannon. All right, Smokin' Jim, we're going to wrap things up here. But first, I promised you, I want you to give me the top 10 interviews from Stan Savran. Now, he did Mario Lemieux. You want to put that in there?
Okay.
Sidney Crosby.
All right.
Chuck Noll.
Okay.
And he was the only one in this city that ever interviewed Chuck Noll. Chuck Noll did not want to ever be interviewed by anybody but Stan Savran.
Wow.
Yeah. And you know how Chuck Noll was. He was never a media person. He hated being on he hated talking on the air or anything like that. He didn't even have a radio show. He didn't have a press conference or nothing. He was just, and that was good because I like coaches like that, because now you can't even do that now. So you get fined if you do it. Mel Blount, John Stallworth, Franco Harris, Andy Van Slyke, Dermonti Dawson, Carnell Lake, Ben Roethlisberger, Rod Woodson, John Kolb, David DeCastro, James Ferrier, Tim Worley, Ramon Foster, John Banaszak, Dick LeBeau, Todd Haley. Oh, my.
Starting to get watered down, ain't it?
Yeah, no, well, Ozzie Smith and Arnold Palmer. Which ones would you put in the top 10?
Well,
that's a tough one, isn't it?
Not that tough.
No. Okay, I say Mario. How about that?
Crosby, Mario, they both got to go in. Chuck Noll got to go in there.
All right. How about Franco Harris?
Yeah. Maybe.
Okay. How about let's see. How about Dick Hoke?
Nah.
All right. Ben Roethlisberger?
I put Ben in there.
Okay. Rod Woodson?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Oh boy. John Banaszak.
No.
How about Dick LeBeau?
No.
All right. Well, of course, no on Todd Haley. Dermontti Dawson.
No.
All right. Ozzie Smith.
Yeah.
Arnold Palmer.
Yeah.
Okay. We haven't quite got to 10 yet. Andy Van Slyke.
That's my favorite pirate, so yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Barry Bonds, too. I forgot about
him.
All
yeah.
Right. Okay, good. Now we're there with our top 10. That was a good thing there that we just did there and on our Stan Savran. All right, Smokin' Jim, we're getting ready to wrap it up here. Do you have any final thoughts before we go?
No, great show as usual, man. Can't wait for next Tuesday.
Oh, man, next Tuesday is going to be exciting. By the way, I have some small announcements here for you. Tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m., Ralph Williams one-on-one returns, and I'm interviewing former L.A. Rams running back Mel Farr Jr. tomorrow on Ralph Williams one-on-one, 8:30. It'll be a half-hour show. We're going to talk football, his career, what he's doing now. Mel Farr Jr. played for Michigan, and he now lives in Atlanta. And he was an L.A. Ram. He was a running back, and I'm going to be interviewing him tomorrow night at 8:30. And then on Thursday night, don't forget, we're back to 7:30 p.m., barring any mishaps or anything that goes on. But we'll be there at 7:30 for Blog Talk Radio, 347-205-9631, Wrestle Talk. We have a lot to talk about this week, including leading up to Money in the Bank. The men's field has been filled, and we're going to find out who's going to win that as we discuss that as well, and much more about wrestling. Also on Saturday morning, 9:30 a.m., the External Bum podcast, right before I go to Beaver County Radio to their ribbon cutting ceremony. Now, tonight, I just got some mobile equipment, a mobile mixer that I'm taking with me. It's real small, and I can hook up, and I am going to do a podcast live from the Beaver County new studio, Smokin' Jim, and I'm going to try to have Frank Sparks and Eddie Crow and a few of the other ones on as well, because that's the ribbon cutting for that. That's this Saturday. You'll be in Atlanta, in Dallas here, Smokin' Jim. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, looking forward to it, brother.
All right, great. Hey, say hi to Jerry Jones for me while you're down there.
I sure will.
Mark Cuban, too. So, anyway, and then also don't forget next Monday nights, the way I see it here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter platforms. My guest is Jake Hauk from the Allegheny Institute for Public Policy, and we're going to talk about Pittsburgh public schools. You're going to like this one. All right.
Wow.
Paul said, what's the exact date and time of the new show? I don't want to miss it. Well, Paul, I'm getting ready to go into that. It's next Tuesday, June 20th, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. We're going to be on Beaver County Radio. That's FM 95.7. It's FM 99.3, 12:30 a.m., 1460 a.m. Also, you can listen to it on their Beaver County Radio's website and on their app if you download it on your phone. And we will be live on Beaver County Radio's Facebook page. So there's your opportunities to watch and listen to the show. My guest will be, of course, my co-host, Smokin' Jim Frazier, and our two bestest buddies, Luther Dupree and Claudia Rosano. Claudia Rosano is going to be in the studio with me. Luther Dupree and Smokin' Jim will be by phone. And they host a show called The Boxing Authorities. They're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about their show, Steel City Sports World. And we're going to talk about sports and take your phone calls as well. So please don't forget to tune in, call in, whatever you're going to do for the show. We'll be on next Tuesday, Smokin' Jim. I'm excited. I don't know. I can't say anymore. I'm so excited. It's unbelievable. And we just had a pretty good 90-minute show tonight. What do you think?
Oh, man. Yeah, awesome show. Can't wait for the radio show to kick in. It's going to be a lot of fun, brother.
Oh, yeah. Keep it right here on my YouTube channel because we are going to be back with Sports Corner. We're going to do occasional live shows here because and also Don't forget to watch all of our shows as well on Amped Up Sports' Facebook page, because we're with Amped Up Sports now, and we're with Sideline Sports. So Sideline's going to be putting our Sports Corner show, Wrestle Talk, and the External Bum on there as well. So we're going to have our shows on there on those two websites. So make sure you look into their websites or look into their Facebook pages, because that's where we are right now. For Smokin' Jim Frazier, and we're here in the First Line Consultant Services studios. I'm Ralph Williams. We'll be back sometime, but don't forget, next Tuesday, we go radio, Beaver County Radio, everybody. And I look forward to hearing from you on the radio. Everyone, have yourself a great night and be safe. Thank you. And Smokin' Jim, once again, thank you as well. Thank you.
You're welcome.